It is Tuesday, December 21st, 2021. I'm in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York. I was flipping through the channels today, and I noticed they had a Italian professore, they called it Italian Studies. I had never heard of such a thing. She's from NYU. I was very curious because she looked very familial. I enjoyed the way that she dressed, not like myself. She was dressed how I used to dress when I had a wardrobe and money and a house and whatever, was taking care of the children. So, she, though, was speaking to a man about something I had never heard of called Dante. I had heard of something called a Dante's Inferno in a very brief passing somehow, which I don't even have to connect to. But it was not in university, it was not in college, it was not Colgate, it was not Citadel. I am not sure how I came about this knowledge, but I heard the word in passing, perhaps in an English class. I think perhaps Miss Kern, when I used to say Hail Marys in St. Dominic's. Now, there was this Italian professore, who spoke English beautifully. She says that in NYU, she mentioned these words I had never heard, even though she's at NYU, and I'm in the same New York, just she would be in the borough of Manhattan. I am in the borough of County Queen. So she said something about a tish I had never heard of. And then these expressions, again, here, when I graduated high school, the high school I entered senior year in the borough of Queens being St. John's on a Crescent Street was already fully wrought and rotted with pieces of problematic whatever that almost hid guidance from me purposely. So I don't know. So now this interesting thing called a Dante. It was Dante, she said Alighieri. I just looked it up. The paintings of this Florence Renaissance, they look familial. But what was interesting was this professore in New York, and her name, I think it was Allison. I don't know what her last name was, but I think it was Allison was her first name. My memory is not the best in this part of the machine. She had a painting of this Dante, of almost a celestial body with different moving pieces, but in a circular rotation. And then it had tiers to it, or Tiers, or layers, Layers, which I found interesting. Just by looking at the painting, I found it very interesting, because I don't describe my pieces that way. I used to have them on the wall here in square blocks in a separate pattern. But I do know that they do come in Brussels sprout circles, spheres anyway, in my rusel, and the artichoke. Now she says that they, in some program that she does with students, there's some, I mean, I don't know Italian that well, but then I was reading on it and it says the Divine Comedy. Because sometimes I mention DC Marvel Comics, but that is the real world of where I am, but indicative of the Divine Comedy. Because again, I don't have the professore's words. I'm using my own universal speak of what the humans have been amusing themselves with and trying to loom or weave into my own tapestry pieces of their gift to themselves. I don't know, while I've been held here. I also, there's been a problematic piece. Well, there was another painting. Sometimes when I call it babushka, but when I put the scarf over my head, for Nordic purposes to keep my cheeks warm with the cold wind, there's a not so flattering painting, but it's very realistic. Something called Petra, I think, something along those lines. Again, my diction is not the best in Italian. I have nobody to practice with, so here we are. And then after that, flipping a few more channels, there was this interesting, weird cultural channel in English that had the word Latinas, Latin, and then IAS after it. I know what the woman looked like, but she said that in their culture or their area of the whatever, sharing in New York on open air, they have something in the new year where they take an egg and they throw it out the window. Then they bathe in the earth and then they wear yellow underwear. I'm like, this is the weirdest acknowledgement the humans have ever spoken on open air that I have witnessed. I'm like, I mean, they do a lot of weird things to humanness, but I sit here going, now what could the children of Earth mean by all of this? Why would such a... Because then I'm thinking, is this now Mother of Earth is what I'm known as in certain important things for the important marriage that still has yet to happen. And I'm thinking, is that my Empress egg that they're referencing that they threw out the window? Now, why would they throw my Empress egg out a window, bathe themselves in earthware, which is Mother Nature, and shower themselves and clean themselves off, and then put on yellow underwear? It's a very strange world, this one. And then I go back to the Divine Comedy with Purgatori, but it's, I mean, I call Alexander Gator. Gato is cat, but I call him Gator, like as in crocodile. But again, it's more cryptic between he and I, because I just have such a love for him. He's just, oh God, he's just, oh, the perfectest human, just wrapped in a little bundle is what he was delivered as. For me anyway. I have to think about this. So this is the weirdness of this human acknowledgement piece in New York that has me very confused. And then lastly, in the education that they provided the humans in some sort of fashion, where I was in elementary school, they really did not speak the word or the sound of Asian, ASIA, and then you could put an N at the end of it. That word was never spoken. They spoke of the Germans, they spoke of, Russia visited briefly, or relatives of whatever was here. There was Norway, Sweden was talked of. Um, those are the main. Those were the main countries I remember learning and being immersed in. I do remember there was something in Latin America. I don't remember the country, but there was some mention of an arrowroot cookie I had to prepare for a countryman day, but I didn't know the country. But we were all learning together in Miss Arvan's class. And it was an ARROWROOT cookie. Not very sugary, whatever, very earthy, I would say. But the there was on TV yesterday, like, and again, on the television in 19th century, decade 8 and 9, the word Asian was usually more Oriental Asian, but now that gets confusing between the Sierra crew, because I hear there's a Sierra Madre, a Sierra Occidental, and Sierra Oriental, and I'm wondering if that's the Asia, but that we don't consider Central America Asia. We call a different part of the world Asia. So that gets confusing with what I've been taught and what's being put on TV now. Asia looked very, on TV anyway, growing up, looked very culturally enriched in a very different setting than, and respectful setting, but in these artistic pieces than what we have that calls themselves Asian American. Completely different populations, or at least different costume representation in their daily life. But yesterday, there was some representation on television with this new Eric Adams, who said these 5 deputy mayors were Asian and women, which was very confusing because one of them, I would say, kind of sort of looks like what they were portraying and teaching using those sounds, but it's not visually, even though he used that reference word, it's not visually what's been projected or promoted in the large area public of New York. So that gets confusing. And then I'm thinking, well, is that the money that fueled it was Asia? And then we wound up with something more Sierra? Because I wouldn't even. I mean, one woman's last name was Torres, Torres. They're not Asian. Or at least they're not the Asian that the original mapping section and the original was taught. But again, this whole thing is starting to get really confusing, and I don't even know how to broach the subject with Lynn and Lou. The minute I say it, they shut down. They're just like, "This is so racist," and I'm like, "No, I'm trying to figure this out here. You're the parents." I was like, "And you've got no guidance here. Like, what have you heard in your lifetime?" They're like, "I didn't." what? How am I supposed to teach my kids if I can't even get straight answers out of the preceding whatever? And then all of the teachings look all wrong. This is really like getting to be very stressful. Um, star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. But today, December 21st, 2021, was the first time I had heard in some form of, with a painting anyway, of a lead to go look into something called a Dante, which I did. I looked on Google and it seemed to match. There were some more Florentine paintings. They said it was Florence, Italy. So I went through some of those, which I found rather interesting. But again, I don't have like circles or entry into a society that I'm aware of. I don't know where the entry point is to find. Thank you. People who know of these things and who enjoy these things. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken.